Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to sift through the data, find the key insights, and get you up to speed quickly. And today, we're looking into something maybe a bit unexpected, a very specific part of the wine industry that's actually making quite a splash.
That's right. We're focusing on the market for, well, specifically PVDF and PES membranes used in wine filtration. Sounds super technical, I know, but honestly, this tech is really central to modern winemaking. It's changing how wine gets made.
Okay, and we're navigating this using insights and data from Global Market Pulse, which comes from research by Cognitive Market Research. So our goal here is to unpack their numbers, look at the growth, figure out why it's expanding, and why this specific technology matters for wine globally.
Exactly. It's a great case study of innovation meeting tradition, really. So maybe let's start with the big picture, the global market view.
Let's do it. Okay, so the source puts this filtration membrane market at $267.3 million. That was back in 2021. Seems quite substantial for something so niche.
It is, yeah. And it's definitely growing. They're projecting it to hit $340 million by 2025. That's just next year. And then looking further out, say, to 2033, the forecast is $550.1 million.
Wow, okay, that's nearly double the 2021 figure over about a decade. What kind of growth rate are we talking about?
The report calculates a compound annual growth rate, a key AGR, of 6.2%. So pretty solid, steady growth.
Okay, 6.2%. Growth like that doesn't just happen. What are the main reasons? What's driving winemakers towards these PVDF and PES membranes specifically?
Well, the research highlights a few key things. One big factor is this growing demand for precision filtration. Winemakers want more control.
Precision. So like getting rid of tiny unwanted things, yeast, bacteria, that sort of stuff, without messing up the wine.
Exactly that. Which ties straight into the second driver, a real emphasis on retaining flavor. You can think of these membranes as, well, incredibly fine sieves. They have these precisely controlled pore sizes. So they let winemakers filter out spoilage microbes or haziness without stripping out those important aroma and flavor compounds. Older methods sometimes took the good with the bad, you know?
Ah, okay. So purity, but keeping the wine's actual character. That makes a lot of sense, especially for, higher-end wines where nuance matters.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole clean label trend. Consumers want wines that feel less manipulated, fewer additives. Sterile cold filtration, using these membranes, lets you stabilize the wine microbially so you can bottle it without needing pasteurization or heavy doses of preservatives. It ticks that clean box for consumers.
Right, so it connects to what people are actually looking for on the shelf.
Totally. And the report also points to a really important shift in the industry itself, moving away from traditional heat pasteurization. Heat can, well, it can damage the delicate flavors and structure of a wine. This cold filtration method achieves stability without that thermal impact. It's gentler.
So less invasive, better quality control aligns with consumer trends.
Better.
Got it. It's interesting how this one piece of tech touches so many aspects. Okay, let's see how this plays out around the world. Where's the action happening?
Right, let's look at the regions. North America is a really key player, according to the source. Their market was about $82.1 million in 2021, and it's projected to grow to $165 million by 2033. Pretty solid expansion.
And the CAGR there is 6%, right?
Okay.
Pretty much matching the global average. How does it break down within North America?
Well, the U.S. is the heavyweight. It's expected to go from $58.7 million up to nearly $114 million by 2033. Canada is also showing strong growth, a 6.6% CAGR, looking to more than double its market size. But here's something interesting. Mexico actually has the highest CAGR in the region, 7%. It's starting smaller, $7.1 million in 21, but projected to hit $16 million by 33.
Huh. Mexico growing faster than the U.S. or Canada in this niche. That suggests pretty rapid tech adoption there. Okay, let's hop over to Europe, the traditional wine powerhouse.
Yeah, Europe's obviously a massive market for this stuff. It was valued at $102.6 million back in 2021. The forecast there is $197 million by 2033.
Okay, but its KDR is a little lower, you said, 5.6%. How does that look across the big wine countries there?
It varies a bit. You see steady growth in places like the UK and Germany. Germany's projected to reach about $35.3 million. Italy's also expanding consistently. But what's quite noticeable is France. Arguably the center of the wine world, but its projected CGR is a bit more modest, 4.9%, expected to reach around $24.6 million by 2033.
That is interesting. Why would France, of all places, be a bit slower on the uptake here? Maybe sticking more to traditional ways or just different market dynamics?
The report doesn't spell out the exact reasons for the country differences, but yeah, you see these varied adoption rates. Spain, for instance, is growing faster than the European average. So is Russia, actually.
Okay, so Europe's growing, but maybe not uniformly adopting this tech at the same speed everywhere.
Yeah.
Where does the report point for the fastest growth, like really high acceleration?
No, that's definitely the Asia-Pacific region, hands down. This market there is expected to basically explode, going from $54.1 million in 2021 to $125.2 million by 2033.
Wow, more than doubling. What's
Yeah.
the CAGR driving that kind of jump?
It's got the highest regional EAGR they identified, 7.2%.
And which countries are fueling that? China, I assume.
China is definitely a huge part of it, yeah. An impressive 8.1% EGR, heading towards nearly $50 million by 2033. But get this, tied for the highest UGR in the entire study at 8.2% are India and Colombia.
India and Colombia. For wine filtration membranes, that's not what I would have guessed.
I know, right? It really shows how quickly some emerging markets are adopting these advanced techniques, maybe even skipping over some of the older tech used elsewhere. India's market is set to grow from about $6 million to nearly $16 million. Colombia from $1.7 million to over $4 million. And you've also got Japan, South Korea, Australia showing healthy growth too, mostly in the 6% range.
Fascinating. So,
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Showing healthy growth too, mostly in the 6% range.
fascinating. So big uptake in regions maybe not historically known for massive wine output, but clearly embracing the tech.
Yeah.
What about Southeast Asia and Latin America quickly?
Southeast Asia is flagged as a growing market, set to hit $15 million by 2033. That's a 6.9% CAGR. It's a mix of imported wine needing filtration and some local production starting up. Latin America, besides Colombia, shows strong potential too. Brazil's projected to reach nearly $16 million. That's a 7.5% CAGR. Again, you see these really high growth spots. Chile leads the pack there with an 8.8% CAGR, and Peru is right behind at 8.7%. Argentina's growing steadily too.
More really high carry-Rs in parts of Latin America.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, the Middle East and Africa. Any highlights there?
It's described as steadier growth. Turkey's projected to reach about $4.9 million by 2033. That's a 6.3% CAGR. Egypt shows moderate growth.
Okay, so pulling it all together.
Yep.
We've got this global market for specific wine filters growing steadily overall, about 6.2%. But the real headline seems to be the rapid acceleration in Asia-Pacific and certain countries in Latin America, alongside, solid but maybe less dramatic growth in the established regions like North America and Europe, with some internal variations there too.
That's a really good summary of the data story. And I think what's really key when you connect these dots is what it tells us about the bigger picture in wine.
What do you mean?
Well, this isn't just about membranes, right? It's showing a broader industry trend. It's a move towards precision, towards maybe sustainability in some ways, and definitely towards technology in winemaking. The fact that there's such demand for these specific filters, the ones that enable sterile cold filtration, help keep flavor, fit the clean label idea it shows winemakers everywhere, are focusing more on achieving high quality and stability in ways that, well, match what modern consumers want. Maybe using gentler methods.
So it's not just a niche market report. It's kind of a window into how winemaking itself is evolving on a global scale.
Exactly that. It shows technology isn't just for, mass production. It's becoming a vital tool for quality-focused producers, big and small, to ensure their wine gets to the consumer reliably, consistently, and tasting the way they intended.
This has been really illuminating. Taking this deep dive into just one component, these filtration membranes, really shows how tech changes can ripple through a whole global industry like wine. We've seen the growth, understood the why, things like flavor, getting away from heat, and mapped out how it looks so different across the world's regions.
Yeah, it definitely highlights that winemaking, even with all its tradition, is constantly evolving, using science to hit quality targets and meet what drinkers are looking for.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe chew on based on this material. So we see this clear trend. The wine industry is leaning more and more on precise, sterile cold filtration using tech like these PVDF and PES membranes. It's driven by wanting clean labels, managing flavor carefully. But what does this growing reliance on technical precision mean for, say, the idea of traditional winemaking, or even for terroir? That unique sense of place in a wine. Does this kind of technology just help express that terroir more clearly, more reliably? Or could embracing this level of control, this kind of technical standardization, potentially start to smooth out the very uniqueness that terroir is supposed to represent? Is it a helper, or does it subtly change the game?
That's a great question. Definitely something to ponder, maybe over your next glass of wine. Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome everyone to a deep dive into a place you might not immediately think of for cutting-edge tech, winemaking.
Mm.
We're here to explore how innovation is, well, bubbling away behind the scenes. Specifically, we're focusing on the pretty sophisticated world of filtration.
Right.
Our mission today, and we're pulling from insights from a global market pulse segment and some data from cognitive market research, is to really pull out the key nuggets about how advanced membrane filtration is. Well,
Yeah.
quietly changing wine. Just for you.
It really is fascinating, isn't it, how this centuries-old craft is meeting modern science.
Yeah.
And the big question we're tackling in this deep dive is really, how is technology changing this ancient process, right? What does that actually mean for the bottle of wine you might pick up?
And we're getting specific today. We're diving into two particular types of membranes the sources really zeroed in on, PVDF and PES.
Yes, PVDF and PES.
Probably not household names, I guess, but the data, especially from cognitive market research, suggests they're becoming, well, absolutely essential to modern winemaking.
That's exactly right. And one of the core things coming from both sources is that the main reason, the main driver for adopting these advanced membrane systems is this growing demand for really precise filtration. Filtration that doesn't compromise the delicate nature of the wine itself.
Right.
Think about what premium winemakers are aiming for. They want perfect clarity, yes, but also rock-solid stability and crucially, absolutely crucially, keeping the wine's authentic flavor profile intact.
So it's not just like brute force filtering, it's more like a surgical approach, removing the bad stuff, leaving the good.
Exactly, precision. And this is where the actual materials come in. PVDF, that's polyvinylidene fluoride, and PES polyethersulfone.
Okay.
They offer really superior chemical resistance and incredibly high microbial retention. What this really boils down to is they enable sterile filtration.
Sterile filtration.
Yeah. Their pore structures, they're engineered to be so fine, they can effectively block things like yeast, bacteria, other spoilage microbes without needing harsh chemicals or, and this is important, heat.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, right? Global Market Pulse touched on this move away from older methods like thermal pasteurization.
Yes, exactly.
Pasteurization kills microbes, obviously, but heating wine, doesn't that kind of risk cooking away those complex aromas and flavors you just mentioned?
Oh, absolutely it does. Pasteurization means significant heat. And while it works for stabilization, there's a real risk of altering those volatile aromatic compounds, the overall depth, the character of the wine. PVDF and PES membranes, they allow for cold, sterile filtration.
Cold, okay.
You get the microbiological stability, which is vital, preventing spoilage, ensuring shelf life, while preserving that delicate natural profile the winemaker worked so hard to create.
Right.
Plus, this cold process, it offers other benefits too, like reduced energy costs compared to heating methods.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And this shift is really significant for, say, smaller boutique wineries or luxury ones, where keeping that natural taste, that authenticity, is just paramount.
Okay, so precision, cold processing, preserving quality. Those are huge reasons to adopt this tech. What else is pushing this market forward? Did the sources point to other drivers?
Yeah, definitely. A big one is the significant growth in the organic and premium wine segments. That's really fueling this market.
Okay.
Consumers, they're increasingly sophisticated. They want wines with clean label values, free from chemical preservatives, artificial additives.
Right, that whole natural wine movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that market pressure, that push from the consumer side, it's directly driving wineries to invest in these kinds of non-intrusive membrane-based methods for stabilization.
And these specific membranes, PVDF and PES, they fit right into that natural low-intervention kind of thinking.
They really do. By making sterile bottling possible without adding sulfites or other chemicals for microbial control, they just align perfectly with the sustainability and natural product trends. Trends that are now pretty central to how wine is marketed and, frankly, how people choose what to buy. It's basically a technological solution that supports a philosophical approach to making wine.
That sounds, well, almost revolutionary for the industry. But this kind of immense tech, it can't be all smooth sailing, can it? The sources did mention some pretty significant hurdles.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not a complete walk in the park.
So what are the big restraints? What's slowing down wider adoption?
Well, one major barrier that both sources highlighted is the high capital investment needed.
Ah, the costs.
Yeah, implementing these sophisticated membranes.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Needed.
Ah, the costs.
Yeah, implementing these sophisticated membrane systems. It isn't cheap. You've got significant upfront costs for the equipment itself. You need skilled people to operate and maintain it. And then there's the ongoing operational overhead.
Right.
So for smaller wineries, those artisanal producers, that initial and ongoing cost can be a really tough challenge. It definitely inhibits widespread adoption across the board.
Okay, so great tech, but a high barrier to entry financially. What about the wine itself? I mean, the liquid isn't always perfectly clean going in, is it? Does the actual composition of the wine cause problems for these membranes?
It absolutely does. And this is a key technical challenge the sources spent time on: the risk of fouling.
Fouling, like clogging up.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Wine, especially, say, less filtered reds, it's complex. You got tannins, pigments, proteins, maybe some residual yeast cells.
Mhm.
These things can gradually clog or foul. The
Mhm.
membrane pores over time. And it's not just like your coffee filter getting blocked. It's a more complex interaction.
Okay.
It reduces the membrane's efficiency, shortens its lifespan, means you need frequent, specialized cleaning, and that leads to frustrating operational downtime.
So the very thing you're trying to filter can sort of fight back and gunk up the works?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so beyond the technical and the cost issues, are there regulatory headaches too? Rules that make this tricky?
Yes, definitely. Regional filtration regulations can vary quite a bit depending on the specific appellation or country.
Right.
Some traditional wine regions have very strict, sometimes kind of restrictive, guidelines about what techniques are allowed. Often they strongly favor traditional methods and minimal intervention in terms of process, not just the final product.
I see.
So these differences, they create compliance challenges for wineries that want to use advanced membrane filtration, maybe globally, or even just across different regions within the same country.
So we're talking cost, the inherent nature of wine causing fouling, and tricky regulations as the main headwinds. Okay. But despite these obstacles, the technology is clearly advancing and being adopted. So what are the key trends? How is this tech evolving and being used now?
Well, on the trends front, one big thing is seeing increased integration of these membrane systems within smart winery operations.
Smart wineries.
Yeah. Wineries are leveraging automation, sensors, IoT technology, bringing these filtration steps into larger digitally controlled systems.
Like having the filter unit actually talking to the tanks and the temperature controls and all that.
Precisely. This lets you monitor the filtration process in real time, watching pressure, flow rates, checking for potential fouling.
Right.
It allows for optimization on the fly, predictive maintenance, and really data-driven quality control. It contributes to much more consistent results, reduces product loss, minimizes the chance for human error. It's bringing a level of process control that was kind of unimaginable before.
That makes total sense. More consistent product, less waste, better control. Okay. Are the membranes themselves also getting smarter or maybe just tougher, more robust?
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of active R&D going into creating advanced hybrid membranes.
Hybrid.
Yeah, by combining the sort of inherent properties of PVDF and PES with other polymers or maybe specialized coatings, manufacturers are specifically trying to tackle that fouling challenge we talked about.
Targeting the gunking up problem.
Exactly. These hybrid membranes are designed to be more resistant to fouling and offer better throughput, making the tech more robust and adaptable. So it can handle different wine styles better, from light whites to those challenging reds and different processing conditions.
And finally, cognitive market research mentioned something about this tech playing a role in, I think they called it the democratization of winemaking. How do these complex systems fit with, the rise of micro wineries or maybe wineries in emerging regions?
That's actually a critical trend. We're seeing significant global growth in smaller craft micro wineries. And that means there's a real need for this kind of technology to be more accessible, beyond just the huge industrial producers. Okay. So manufacturers are responding. They're developing more scalable, more modular PVDF and PES filtration systems designed specifically for these small batch producers.
Like smaller, maybe mobile units.
Exactly. More compact, sometimes mobile units. These allow emerging wineries, or those in new regions, to access sophisticated sterile filtration capabilities. It helps them meet international quality standards, ensure their product is stable, all without needing the massive infrastructure you'd associate with traditional methods or those really large-scale industrial systems.
Wow. So from huge industrial setups all the way down to enabling the rise of the small artisanal producer, that's quite a journey for these membrane materials.
It truly is. It really shows how this evolution in membrane tech is becoming central, not just for large-scale production anymore, but increasingly for artisanal and premium wine, too.
Yeah.
It's driven by these demands for quality, for natural processes,
Yeah.
efficiency. They're really poised to play a significant role in the future of wine, despite challenges like cost and regulation, which are being tackled through innovation.
Yeah.
They allow that sterile bottling without chemicals, which directly supports that huge rise in organic and premium wines you see everywhere.
And the trends like integration into smart wineries, developing more accessible systems, it's lowering that barrier to entry we talked about.
Exactly. Lowering the barrier, making it more feasible.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? About how much unseen technological innovation is actually happening in industries we often just think of as purely traditional or, rooted only in nature and heritage.
It certainly does. There's often a lot more science involved than meets the eye.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe ponder as you go about your day. Think about how these quiet, unseen technological innovations, like these specific filtration membranes in winemaking, or maybe similar advances happening in other seemingly traditional industries, how they might be subtly influencing the taste, the quality, maybe even just the sheer variety of the products you enjoy every single day. How is that delicate balance between, say, preserving heritage and embracing scientific advancement being struck? Often, probably, without you even realizing it.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.